Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to The Line. I'm Aron Ra, and guest hosting with me today is Dave Farina, better known as Professor Dave. And Professor Dave, it's been a little bit since I spoke to you. I've always had fun when we do talk. I just wanted to praise you once again for causing an awful lot of butthurt in the creationism community when you took down their savior James Tour. Again and again and again. And I like how when you get into these arguments with creationists, that their whole game is never admit when you're always wrong. Never admit any defeat, no matter how badly bruised and bloody you are.
On the contrary, the other guy is always wrong, right? Dave doesn't know how to read papers, as I run circles around him with the papers. Yeah.
Yeah, I just got reprimanded by a creationist just in chat messages just before the show came on about how no scholar holds this position. I'm like, dude, I just linked you to the scholars that hold that position. What did you show me? Nothing. Mm-hmm. That's the standard way of argument. They project all of their own faults onto you. I don't know why do the faith believers insist on accusing me of having faith? Is it you just admit that the faith is the most indefensible position it's possible to have, so you have to pretend that everything you believe for any reason at all is a faith-based position?
Well, they want equal footing, right? So at least we're both faith-based, at the very least, right? I have my faith, you have yours. So
yeah, I have that argument over and over again. I said, look, I don't have faith and you don't have evidence. Let's just establish that. And you'll never get there. Yeah. So do we have any calls on the line? Let me take a look.
Right now I'm getting call stuff figured out because our screener no-showed, so we're getting that figured out. If you two want to just keep chatting for a minute, I'll have it set up soon.
Okay. All right. Well, Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself so that I don't have to do all the talking, because I have a fucking polar bear pounding on the door who demands that I let him out. You take over for a moment.
Sounds good. So my name's Dave Farina. I run a channel called Professor Dave Explains. It began as just a collection of academic tutorials. I used to teach organic chemistry, and so it just began with my organic chemistry lectures, just sort of delivered to camera, which then did well enough to prompt me to start doing a bunch of other topics, first very adjacent topics, and then branching out from there. And then for about 3 years or so, I've been pretty into this secondary aspect of the channel, which is the debunking content. So it started out with Flat Earth, which was the bottom of the barrel, but then I've shifted over to other more urgent things. And definitely creationism is one of the primary targets, although I do have others that I focus on quite a lot as well. But there's nothing quite like debunking smug creationists. You know what I mean? It's really the most satisfying, I think. Debunking James Tour definitely has been probably the most satisfying portion of my SciComm career, if I'm being honest. Yeah.
Let's summarize what Tour's arguments are, because when I compare his anti-science apologetics to other creationists, the continuing theme that I often see is the claim that the experts don't know anything. It's just the will. Only the fools are wise. Wisdom is foolish, and only the fools are wise. It's only the pig ignorant who really knows the secret truth.
Mm-hmm. But this time it has an interesting spin, because he's presenting himself as a premier expert, right? So he can't.
Yeah,
he can't Yeah, I mean it's weird. Like
I'm sorry. There's a bit of a delay, so I'm going to try to be try to be aware of that.
He has to take the angle that the origin of life research community in particular is corrupt, right? He's not. He tries to pretend that origin of life research is exclusively his domain. He doesn't even do organic chemistry. It's just synthetic chemistry, right? Which he does have expertise in a very limited, narrow way, as pertains to his research. So he has to say, number one, that he's an expert in what they do, which he's not, and number two, that they're all lying and corrupt, right? Because when you have a field that's producing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of papers that are producing all of this research that is very pertinent to this topic, I mean, he has to find a way to undermine that and assert himself over that entire community. So it has to be, his latest thing has been this thing of like, number one, pretending it's a boutique field with a dozen researchers, which is idiotic. There are hundreds of researchers. And number two, pretending that they lie, they misrepresent data, right? They publish, here's this data, right? Benner got ribose, and then he looks at his NMR spectrum and goes, this is a mess, this is ridiculous, this spectrum is so bogus, and he didn't get what he said he got, which he totally did. He just didn't know how to read the spectrum, right? So it's but the problem is that, like, who knows how to read a 13C NMR spectrum? Zero non-chemists, right? Nobody who's not a chemist can read that. So none of his followers can read that spectrum. So they just believe him. And I mean, you can't really completely blame them because he's a chemist, so he should be able to read it. So it would seem like you could trust him on that. But in fact, he can't read it, or he's just lying about it. You know what I mean? So that's why I think there had not been anyone to step up to the plate, really, because debunking his apologetics is different than debunking your standard Discovery Institute anti-evolution apologetics, because there's all this really sophisticated chemistry that's absent in the likes of what Meyer and Behe and all those guys do. So no one had really done it. So when I started to do it, they freaked out because he had been untouched, and now he's in ruins. So
the crux of his argument, again, just comes down to that the experts in the field who are doing this research don't really know what they say they know. And so his own contemporaries, not necessarily his peers, because, as you said, he's doing synthetic chemistry, so it's not really even real. He's doing synthetic chemistry as opposed to organic chemistry. He's not doing origin of life research. His complaint, like a lot of the novices that I've heard, the people that don't know fuck all about chemistry, will argue that if you're going to do something like look at the autocatalysis of RNA, for example, you're having to observe these things with a super powerful microscope. You're having to use very specific experiments to isolate that you're looking at what you're looking at, and not just looking and not get confused about it, right? So you have to be very precise. And so they're complaining that these experiments are a controlled environment, which they've got to be. I mean, you're looking at something so tiny. How could it not be, right? If you're going to try to isolate and you're going to try to be precise, there's no way around it. You have to have a controlled. But then they say, well, the experiment was intelligently designed. In what sense? We're showing that this chemistry happens. This is a chemical process. It occurs. It's not because we observe it occurring. It's not because we've willed it to occur. It has nothing to do with how we've set the parameters. It's not an intelligently designed experiment even. And so, there's dozens of different experiments on original life studies that show different increments of this. I used to hear people arguing all the time about how, what do you do about the problem of homochirality? Well, now we have a total solution for that. And suddenly we just don't hear that argument. Now they're not satisfied with that. We've now seen the enzymatic process that gets around the problem of homochirality. So that's gone. But now they have to find some other alleged problem. And the problem is, really, they don't want to know that this is reality. They want to pretend something else.
Well, I mean, in fairness, I mean, I think it's a mischaracterization to say that the problem of homochirality has been solved, right? We don't know exactly the way that the chirality of all these biomolecules came about. The mischaracterization on the part of apologists is that because the scientific community has developed many, many different plausible explanations for the development of homochirality, just as an example, since you brought it up, right? We have all of these different ways it could have come about, many of which are well substantiated empirically. We just was. So somebody like James will take that situation and run with it and say, we are clueless, implying that we don't know any plausible explanation, which is false. We know many. We know many different ones. And he refuses to actually address them. Right? He just pretends they don't exist.
All right, so we're going to try to take. I was referring to a specific study that I'm like, okay, this does in fact solve the problem. You're telling me there's no solution. Here is a solution, and then it's the eyes closed, fingers in the ears, nuh-uh, and then and they always want to change the subject once they realize that you know what you're talking about on this thing. There's never a concession that what they just said is false. When they tell me that there's no transitional species, there's no beneficial mutations, whatever it is. We show them that, and you'll never get the concession, well, I guess you made your point. It's instead, let's talk about this other completely unrelated field that I also don't know anything about.
Correct.
All right, so I'm going to take the call from James in Arizona. James, if I did this right, then you're on the line.
Thank you, Aron and Professor Dave. I'm really pleased to speak with you specifically because you are the reason I called about a month ago and made a fool out of myself online on air, talking to Aron about a month ago. I expect you remember, Aron. It wasn't a very interesting call, but well, I guess I'll just get down into it. I don't even know where to begin. I'd spent my whole life just not even thinking twice about where we came from or anything like that. When I was a teenager in the 90s, I was homeschooled and my parents didn't know science, so they've got VHS tapes of Kent Hovind to teach me science. And that's what I understood of the world up until a few months ago when I just happened to stumble across a clip on Facebook of Kent Hovind, who I hadn't even thought of since the 90s, and he was debating you, Professor Dave. He was talking to you. And the person who shared the clip, I'm guessing they must have edited it to make you look silly because it looked like he stumped you with a question that you didn't have an answer to. And so I called about a month ago to talk to Aron to see if I could. Actually, I was hoping to talk to Forrest, but he wasn't on that night because I know Forrest knows biology.
I'm just a peripheral character. You call for Forrest, you call for Professor Dave. I'm just this guy in the way.
Well, I feel silly because I made a fool out of myself last time, and everybody thought I was faking or lying or trying to make folks look bad. But the truth is, I haven't thought about this stuff. It's not like I spend every day of my life wondering if evolution is true. You know, I've just, you know what I mean? Like that's been on the. It's not a big issue in my day-to-day life, so I didn't think much of it until I saw that video. And it reminded me about Kent Hovind from way back in the day. Of course, I guess he's still around now. And anyway, so and then I went up and looked into Professor Dave's work and found out Professor Dave is actually he's not just some idiot that Kent Hovind was talking to. He's actually a scientist who's done some studying and research of his own. So I don't know. I'm struggling with this right now because I've never given it a second thought. I've spent my whole life just sort of not really even thinking about any of this, and now all of a sudden I'm being hit with, Aron, you recommended I look up Dr. Miller, and I did, and it's a lot of it went over my head because I don't really know much about it, but I'm just still sort of stuck with a couple of things that I just can't quite figure out how it fits together, and maybe you or Professor Dave can help me make some sense of it.
Sounds good. I appreciate the openness. Yeah.
Well, and I gotta appreciate also that this is all pretty raw for you. I mean, this is new. This is a revelation you've had just in the last couple of months. That your science education came from essentially a used car salesman.
I never even thought about it since the 90s when I saw Kent Hovind on tape, and I didn't know he was this. I didn't know he was still a name, and I didn't know he still was talking about anything. I thought he was just this guy from the 90s, and then I'd forgotten about him till I only recognized him because he has this weird voice, this really distinctive voice, and I remembered it from when I was a kid and when he was debating Professor Dave. So I guess I'll just ask the question that they edited together to stump Professor Dave. I went back and watched the debate, and I didn't come away with a satisfying response, but he said, Kent Hovind said something about, if you breed strawberries, you always get a strawberry. At what point do you get something that isn't that you would say is no longer a straw? Because if we're all related, that means at some point there was, a fish-like creature that had babies, and that's one of my ancestors according to evolution, right? So how is it that some of his ancestors went on to be fish and some went on to be non-fish? I mean, I'm sorry. I know it sounds stupid. I know you're hearing this and you're thinking to yourself, what a silly question. But it just doesn't, it betrays the common sense that I feel when I think of when my dog has puppies, there's always going to be some variety of dog, right?
Right.
We
Let me just
often
answer
contrast.
contextualize,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
but Aaron knows way more about phylogeny than I do. So let me just do a quick answer, but then I'll hand it over to you. So what was going on in that section was he was using just a ridiculous rhetorical strategy because he was asking for an example of speciation, and I was talking about this thing called polyploidy, change in chromosome number, to produce strawberries. So it was how strawberries came about. So when he's talking about this whole is it still a strawberry part was just him. He just didn't know how to have the conversation about polyploidy. He didn't know what I was talking about, so he had to redirect. But what you were saying about dogs, right? That's the more common version of his talking point is it still a dog, right? Dogs always make dogs. That's how he kind of sinks his teeth into people, because it does seem commonsensical at first glance. But the point is that when you have speciation, when you're producing variation, everything is nested right within these categories. So it's like kind of the same way that like birds are dinosaurs, right? You have these larger categories and then differentiation occurs amongst them, but they all still belong to this larger parent category. So anything that came from dogs, and honestly, dogs is a bad example because we breed them, so we intentionally breed them in certain ways. But if you thought of something in the wild, whatever would come from that lineage would still belong to that larger parent category, no matter how different it began to look over millions and millions of years. And then he uses the fact that we're not alive for millions of years and don't see that much variation to pretend that that never happens. But yeah, I'm sure Aaron can do a bit better job with the actual categorization of it.
I've corrected Kent Hovind on this point directly a number of times, sometimes in real time to his face. And he's never going to let go of it. So he doesn't understand that at no point ever in evolutionary history does one thing become not the thing that its ancestors were. But you have to understand the context of this. So we have one of the issues of English language, for example. I mean, we have a tendency to contrast wolves from dogs. We're talking about domestic dogs, and they were derived from wolves. So we have a wolf that gave birth to a non-wolf. Right, that would be one way of looking at it. But now he's going to argue that, well, a wolf is still a canid, which means it's still a dog. That's true. So wolves are actually within, the group of dogs. Now, yes, we derived hundreds of different breeds of domestic dogs, but then natural selection also derived different species of dogs that cannot interbreed. They cannot bring forth after their kind anymore. So you can put a Lacayan pictus, the African painted dog. You can put that with an Asian raccoon dog or a South American bush dog or with an Australian dingo. They are not going to make puppies. They cannot bring forth because they have speciated. And so when you talk about the fish and the non-fish, in taxonomy, there's no classification for fish. Instead, we would use the term for chordate or for vertebrate, in the argument being whether you can have a pre-vertebrate fish, but that's a different argument than you're having. So we are all chordates, and we'd never stopped being chordates. Some of the ancestors continued on being what we would colloquially call fish, and others went on to become tetrapods, which is an actual taxonomic clade. And again, it never stopped being what the ancestors always were. So Kent Hovind's favorite argument, cows produce cows. Yeah. Sometimes they produce bulls too. Mm-hmm. But he refuses to let go of what taxonomy is monophyletic, which means that it's a law of evolution that you can't outgrow your ancestry, that you're always going to belong to every clade that your ancestors did. And so whenever you have a new species of something, I mean, it's a new species of stickleback fish, a new species of fruit fly or whatever, they'll say, yeah, but it's still a fly. Yeah, because descent with inherent modification, that's another law. Like you get into the laws of monophyly and the law of biodiversity, there's never a point ever where Kent Hovind's straw man applies, where you have an elephant give birth to a pine tree or a corn plant produce a hamster. Hovind knows that is a lie, that is not anything like what evolution teaches. Many of his followers know that he is lying by using this straw man, but they don't want to know what is real. They want to pretend that they're not really going to die and that they're special magic friends or that they have a magic imaginary friend who's the most powerful being in existence, and they just They just need to pretend really, really hard.
Let's check in with James.
Okay, so in my ancestry, if I were to rewind the clock and look at my grandfather and great and keep going back on the parentage line all the way to millions and however long ago I go back, at some point, am I descended as a human being? Am I descended from, I guess you said we wouldn't call them fish, but am I descended from a creature that a layperson might look at and say, oh, that's a fish. He's got scales, he's got fins, he's got...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. In colloquial terms, there would be there's a time when your average person would say that this one of your ancestors is an amphibian. It's technically not an amphibian because it doesn't belong to the clade of amphibia. And they would look at some other one and say, well, this is a reptile. Technically not. Birds now are classified as reptiles, literally, because the word reptile doesn't mean what it used to mean back in the 19th century. But creationists tend to be 100 years out of date.
Just one point,
I just don't understand. Never. Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me just do one point. I think that what you said is true, but I think some of the confusion lies in the fact that most people have not seen all of the transitional forms that we are aware of. So, like, even just looking at from, again, what we would colloquially call fish to the first land walking tetrapods, there are, I don't know how many, you tell me, are many dozens of intermediary forms that we are aware of, right, to go from to land walking tetrapods, and then through every single major clade beyond that. Like, so I think you're coming at this from a perspective of what Kent likes to encourage and just go, when did a fish turn into a human, or when did a blah 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 turn, refusing to look at all of those intermediary forms. It's like looking at two different colors that don't have anything to do with each other. But then when you reveal the whole color wheel and see all of those gradations from one to another, it becomes very clear how it gradually transforms. But sorry, you go ahead. You were going to ask something else.
I was talking to a buddy of mine. Actually, he's a guy named Trevor, and I'm sure he's watching. So hi, Trevor. He's the atheist guy I work with, and he's the one who told me about the show that I called last time to call in. So anyways, hey, Trevor, I'm glad you're making me look dumb online again. Anyway, he put it like a language, like that Spanish comes out of Latin, but there wasn't like Latin mom that had a Spanish baby. Kind of put it like that, and I understand that, but when we're talking about language, it's, that's a small, I can get my head around how language changes, but the idea that, you just said that all of our ancestors will always be within the same, I don't know what a clade is, but I'm guessing that's like a group of life forms. So how is it that I am not in that, like if one of my ancestors was very fish-like, I'm not fish-like, so how can I be in the same clade as him?
Okay, so the word fish doesn't have any taxonomic value because there's no taxonomic consistency. Not every fish has scales. Not every fish is cold-blooded. Some fish have the ability to generate their body temperature to some degree. So I mean, now every fish that we colloquially identify as a fish do have gills, but then there are some things that are not fish that also have gills. So having gills doesn't by itself make it a fish. So fish has no taxonomic value. That word doesn't have taxonomic value. Chordate does, and vertebrate does, because every fish has at least a spinal cord, and then later versions also have the vertebrae that the spinal cord goes into. We are still chordates. We still have spinal cords. We are still vertebrates. We still have that vertebrae. So that never changed. And then there's subsets of what you would call fish that have limbs, that have specific limbs, that have fingers and elbows and all of that. And so those are the stegocephalians and so forth. There are so many, as Dave was just pointing out, there's so many intermediate steps to go from what you would think of as a regular teleost fish to something that's walking around on land. There's all these intermediaries that, of course, the creationists want to deny.
Also, let's not forget that. Sorry, one more point too, though, that may help. If you look at embryonic development, actually, when you were an early embryo, there is a period where you were very fish-like, right? Because of the vestigial aspects of embryonic development. There is a part when you were a very early embryo where you looked very similar to a fish embryo. It's just that the way the genetic instructions result in the body plan unfolding, that's where it differentiates. But that's what happens slowly over time. So
yeah, and just in case somebody gets confused about that, when we talk about pharyngeal slits in a fish would then become gills, but since our evolution continued on, then our development in embryo changed that, so that the pharyngeal slits no longer becomes gills in us; it becomes different parts of our ears and that sort of thing, which also exactly matches what the fossil record says about evolution. So, to a tiny degree, Ernst Haeckel was correct when he said that that phylogeny that ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. There's a degree to which that statement is correct. He added a couple of details which ended up upending the entire thing and disproving it. If he kept it simple, it would have kept pristine.
Let's not lose James too much. Let's check in.
I got a lot of reading to do, because I don't even know what phylogeny means. But so you don't have to explain it. I can Google the definition, and I've been trying to watch the Professor Dave videos. But honestly, some of that stuff, Professor Dave, it's good stuff, but some of it I can't keep up with. I feel like I probably need to do some more. I don't know. I'm sorry. This is all really crazy to me to think that. Okay, can I ask about the chromosome thing that we were talking about earlier? That that Dave was saying something about. I don't remember the word. It was from the Kent Hovind debate. Poly something, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is it that you could have? Okay, so humans have what? 46 chromosomes, right? 23 from each parent. How is it that at some point an animal had a baby with a viable baby, not like a mutated, gonna die 2 seconds after birth baby, but a viable baby that could reproduce and have more babies just like it, but it had a different number of chromosomes than its parent? How is that possible?
Because not every...
Yeah, there are different disorders, trisomies and everything. There are a lot of disorders there are plenty of humans with different chromosome numbers, right? Yeah, it does happen. The reason this was relevant with the plants, and that's why I was talking about strawberries and things. I mean, just in general, there's a lot about genetics that is lost on the average creationist, because we're talking about, I think that everybody knows DNA exists, right? You can't deny that DNA exists, and you can't deny that DNA is the instructions for the production of the body plan. But what a lot of people don't realize is how the different ways that the genome can change. So you have all of these processes like gene duplication, or even entire chromosome duplication, and then neofunctionalization. So you get another copy of a gene, or you get another copy of a chromosome that can then on its own change over time with mutations and things, while the other copy remains intact. So you get new genes, you get new stuff, right? New proteins, new things. And so obviously this can have a big impact on how a fetus can change, right? Changing the body plan of the offspring. So this happens all the time with plants, because plants self-fertilize. So it's really easy for a plant with a different chromosome number to then just immediately start proliferating, because it can self-fertilize. More complicated with animals, but nevertheless, we do see that, because a lot of animals have different chromosome counts, right? This is why.
Yeah.
So.
And not every chromosomal variance is going to have the same type effect. I mean, yes, one type of chromosomal variance that's common in humans can result in a particular condition, but not everyone does, and not everyone is going to. And even the change in the number of chromosomes, a fusion of chromosomes, is what we're talking about in this case, doesn't necessarily have to have a significant impact to the viability or the reproducibility of that organism. So, for example, in the animals that we're talking about, which would have been chimpanzee-like things. So if you went back in time and you met your great ancestors 5 million years ago, or 3 million years ago, they would have looked an awful lot like chimpanzees. But then you probably would have regarded them as people at the same time. I think, because I mean, there's a point, if you went through, if you could see your mother and your mother's mother and your mother's 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 mother, and you just walk down the line, you've got them all in like glass cases, these, that this moment frozen in time for every one of your maternal ancestors going back
a million.
There would never
organisms.
be it would be if you jumped on a motorcycle and drove 10 miles along all of these displays, eventually you would see one and you would say, this one looks like an ape. Now, in fact, they're all of the ones that you've seen so far are apes, because monophyletically we are still apes now. But at some point you would see one and you would think, well, this one looks in my mind to be like an ape. But is it the last ape? Is it the first human? There's no division there. You can't find that one. You can't, even the one that had that chromosomal fusion, you wouldn't be able to see visually which one it was.
I think that was the 20-minute bell.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. And I can get off the call and try back another week. I don't mean to take up all y'all time.
Wait, let me just say one thing.
I'm not trying to rush y'all out of it or anything. Just letting you know what your times are. But I'm quite interested, just because we've got him on and he's a theist. Before y'all let him go, I might suggest you ask him why he still believes in God.
I didn't catch that. I thought that he hadn't thought much about origins. He'd been fed all of the pseudoscience, and I've been fed a ton of pseudoscience when I was a kid. I believed all the shit that they showed me on television, and I had no idea that they would show people things that were deliberate lies on TV. I thought somebody's vetting this stuff, So I mean, I bought all that stuff. So I feel you, and so I didn't think a whole
what the other host was talking about. Why I believe in God. I was talking to a friend of mine at church about this whole thing, and apparently he already believed in evolution, and I honestly figured everybody in church had believed in the same stuff I did and didn't really think much about it. But apparently this other guy's a younger fella. He does believe in evolution, but and I said, well, then where does God fit into that if that's true? And he made a pretty good point. He said, well, what are the chances that we would get all the right mutations and all the right chromosomes and stuff to get to being the people that we are today if there wasn't, somebody directing things where to go? Otherwise, we probably would have just gone extinct by now. And that kind of made some sense. It's true that if it was just left up to random chance, we would have never been here, right? I mean, that's it. So if you're asking, still believe that's
else in our place.
I can see where you would think that. I can see where you can think that, but there's got to be a delay between it. I don't mean to be stepping on you, Dave.
No, I'm tossing in little comments. Yeah, I'm not trying to.
The bigger problem is that when Aron talks, it sometimes mutes Dave's mic.
Oh, wow! Is that happening? Okay, my apologies. No. Okay, so here you think about this. You've got a process that's going on, and it's going on with every individual in every population, and they're constantly dividing, they're constantly changing, and detrimental mutations are not the prerequisite. It's like creationists will tell you that any kind of mutation is always bad. Well, no, they're not. The vast majority of them are completely neutral. They have like no effect on your reproduction at all. And that's why we have, how many different species of parrots, for example? I mean, why would we have so many? Look how many different types of beetles there are. What, 7,500 species of scorpions? Why do we need so many varieties of these?
Hey, sorry, let me cut in real quick. Hey, caller, what was the name? James, are you driving?
Yes, but I'm on a Bluetooth.
Yeah, but we just don't do that, man. If you can pull over and we can take the call off air, we're not going to in any way contribute to what could be called distracted driving. If you'd either pull over or we can finish the call another time.
Okay.
We'll have to finish it another time.
Continue.
Thank you, guys.
No worries. Well, we'll let Aron finish. So just go back and watch afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm done. I'll let it go.
Yeah, let's move on.
I wasn't trying to interrupt you. As soon as I realized the noises we were hearing that's like a hard no on our channel. Like it just takes one person to get in an accident because they were talking and thinking about your point, and then we're fucked.
Okay.
But anyway, pick whichever call you like next. You got a couple theists lined up.
All right. So I see one that says Marshall in Arizona and wants to talk about how evolution is true and how he used to believe what Kent Hovind said was true. That Augustus sounds familiar. Marshall, I think you're on the line.
Marshall, yeah, thank you. Aron, I wanted to start by
I love that
saying,
name, by the way.
Yeah, Mars, God of War. I think it's ironic because my dad's a pastor. So I wanted to say first, heartfelt thank you for your videos. They were what triggered this for me about 3 years ago. I'm a little nervous, so if I sound a little shaky, that's why. My dad's a pastor, like I said. I was raised on Kent Hovind's videos. I watched them religiously. I could probably fucking quote them word for word, every single one. And I believed his bullshit for the majority of my life. And it was having children that were beginning to walk and talk that made me kind of confront this a little bit. You know, I believed the whole thing. 6,000 years old Earth, and I was willing to grant maybe 10,000 years like an arrogant little asshole who thought he understood something. But ultimately, it was just raised on his ignorance. And it was, I watched first your video about Noah's flood, and by the end of that series, I understood the Earth is billions of years old, and it blew my mind to understand it for the first time. I watched your debate with Kent, which was hilarious and just so ridiculous on his end, and to see how your conduct was and how honest you maintained yourself through all of his just insanity. I was blown away and convinced at the same time. For me, it was your explanation of phylogeny, and the really last straw, because my dad, you know, kind of frames himself as a bit of an apologist on his free time. Thankfully, not public. I'd be too embarrassed if that were the case. But his big argument was always, you can't have animals give birth to offspring with different chromosomes, different number of chromosomes. And it was your pointing to Ken Miller and his talk about the, you know, fusing or splitting of chromosomes to explain that was the final thing that like was like the last bastion for me. That's like, once I understood that, I was like, okay, evolution's real, evolution's true, and I understand it. I was raised in church, and so when I was asked if I was theist or atheist, I said jury's out, because that is, you know, it's hard to let go of something you were raised and steeped in. But I understand the science now, and I was calling really as just to an encouragement to James, like, listen, it's not easy to confront this, but you've got to push through. You can't let it go because it's uncomfortable, because it will get uncomfortable. I'm at odds with my entire family now, and I accept that because I understand what I believe is true. But you've got to continue. It won't be easy though.
So just to clarify, you're calling in to offer some support for the previous caller. Is that right?
Yes, in part. Yes.
Yeah. I appreciate that too. And I got to say, when one of the debates that I had with Kent Hovind, which my wife accused me of cheating on her, to the respect that I was doing these video debates with Kent, and I was getting so much joy out of it. It's like, you're enjoying this way too much. It's just so much fun, beating this boy down. One of the arguments that he made was he was talking about how seals cannot be related to bears because seals have this set of chromosomes and bears have this other number of chromosomes. But then 20 minutes later, He's talking about how butterflies, just the collection of butterflies, have this wild variance. It would like hundreds of differences in chromosomes. Again, well, how can you and you're saying that all butterflies are just they're all butterflies and they're different from moths. That was his argument. But some butterflies have the same chromosomes as moths, but then they have they're wildly variant from each other. Why the hell does it not matter in butterflies, but it only matters in, oh, I get it, confirmation bias.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can't realize it's
so embarrassing to me. Like,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I wish we could do something about that delay.
It's embarrassing to me, like how convinced I was that he was my hero growing up. I thought he was a scientific genius, and when he went to prison, it was the government trying to keep him quiet. And like I hook, line, and sinker, I was convinced. And I feel like such a fool watching his conduct now and his behavior and the crimes he's committed. And it's like how is this the Christian example? You know, it's ironic, and pardon me for saying, Aron, I think people are intimidated when they see you because you are the absolute opposite of what they consider to be a good old boy. You know, the long hair, the goatee, everything about it to them is very satanic. And so they ignore everything you say, even though you speak from a position of honesty, intellectual honesty, and you are trying to teach people truth. And then here's Ken, who is the picture perfect Christian, and he's an absolute psycho.
I think that.
So anyways, I don't.
I was just going to say that you're first of all, kudos for having the maturity to rearrange your worldview. Not everybody can do that, but I know that you find yourself in a difficult place with the people that you are close to. But I think that you are in a unique position to be able to sway those around you if you do it in a sequential way. Earlier, you said something to the effect that it made me think that you view science and theism as incompatible, but I think you'll have a lot more luck showing your loved ones how science works if you first show them that those two things are not incompatible, that you can learn about science and accept science without immediately becoming an atheist, right? Modern science makes it possible for one to be an atheist, but it doesn't prescribe it, right? Aron and I are atheists, but there are plenty of scientists even who are religious and who believe in God. And as long as their faith does not infringe on science, it's not a problem. And so you can show your family some facts, you can explain to them some things about genetics and how evolution works. And it doesn't have to be an affront on every aspect of their faith, right? Maybe certain parts, if they believe the earth is 6,000 years old, they're wrong. They're objectively wrong. But if they believe that a God exists, that's a different area of epistemology, right? They can still retain aspects of their faith and learn about science and accept it. So I think that you're in a good position to teach those around you and be a positive influence on your little corner of society.
Yeah, let me also throw out 4 names. I want to throw out 4 names, 2 of whom I've actually been able to speak with in person. Robert Bacher he was a paleontologist. He is a paleontologist who was he was one of the go-to consultants for the original Jurassic Park. Now, he not only is he a famous paleontologist, fully accepts evolution, of course, accepts that birds are a subset of dinosaurs. He's also a Pentecostal preacher. Kenneth Miller, who was the star witness in Kitzmiller versus Dover, advocating for evolution against intelligent design, traditional Catholic. His friend, Francis Collins, who was the director of the National Institutes of Health under 4 administrations, Republican and Democrat. He was also the director of the Human Genome Project. He's an evangelical Christian, but he says that the genetic evidence proves that Adam and Eve are impossible. Impossible. And then Theodosius Dobzhansky, Russian Orthodox Christian, who wrote a paper that says that nothing in biology makes sense except in light of evolution. So while Dave and I have, I'm sure, very different reasons for why we are atheist, understanding and accepting evolution is not that reason. I always accepted evolution, even when I was a Christian. So the reasons that I became atheist had absolutely nothing to do with the evolution versus creationism issue.
Yeah. Yeah, and I am still trying to understand that balance for myself. I appreciate the influence I can have on my family. It was more so for me, my children. I did not want to raise them to believe the things that Kent Hovind preaches, because they're how can I be a good parent and look them in the eye and tell them that, this insane man is telling the truth?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about Kent Hovind anymore. But let's just remember that he's a convicted fraud, and for there's a whole lot wrong with that man, and we don't ever need to bring him up again.
Yeah, I will move on from that then to say, Dave, your series on flat earthers was excellent as well. And ironically, I was watching that at the time that I still believed in creationism and thinking that they were such idiots for believing such anti-scientific things.
That's how dumb flat Earth is.
I want to add my voice. I want to add my voice to that too, Dave. I watched your stuff on the flat Earth as well and appreciated it very much.
Thank you. It's they're fun little pieces. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to end this call.
So, yes, thank you for your
Marshall.
time.
Thank you very, very much for being on.
Thanks for calling.
Okay. Yes, and before we get to the next call, I'm fascinated kind of at the way that you started your series. You're following your expertise. You're doing you're giving your lessons just in a video format. I felt compelled to take what little understanding that I had from my studies of evolution, as at the time a complete autodidact novice, and I needed to produce those on video because I needed to correct a lot of the misinformation that I was seeing rampant all over the internet. And it's funny how you and I both kind of fell into literally just what we're doing now. I mean, this is not something that when somebody asked me when I'm 16 years old, what do you want to do? How would I have even predicted this?
Well, when I was 16, I didn't even have the internet in my house. So yeah, I didn't.
Exactly.
Could have known.
Right. All right, so we are looking at the next call that shows up on my queue. We have, let me see, do we have any yes, Jasmine is a theist and asks the question, there are benefits to children by offering after-school religious programs? Jasmine, I think you're on the line.
Yes, thank you for having me. I want to ask both of your opinions. Do you think there are benefits to having not specifically religious education, particularly Christianity in after-school programs? Do you think it's definitely detrimental, or do you think there are benefits?
Let me answer this in a peculiar way. Is there any advantage to telling a child that Benjamin Franklin was the first king of America?
That's a different way to put it. I would say no.
Yep. So I don't see where there's I'm doing a debate on this weekend where I'm debating whether there is any good at all in religious instruction. And my position is that while religion may do some kind of PR campaigns, or they'll have a bake sale or something or other that they say is going to benefit the homeless, but what they're really doing is completely, it maybe not absolutely completely, but certainly predominantly detrimental to humanity. I find that religion is a net negative to human history. I find that religion has gotten in the way of all of our progress in like every application that it has ever touched. I see that it is completely detrimental, and largely because I think that only accurate information has practical application, and that religion is entirely lies.
Was the question, sorry, I didn't fully get the question. You were asking about after school programs or school, religious school in general, or what was it?
After school religious programs, do you guys believe it's totally detrimental?
Wholly,
well,
yes.
I think that childcare is important, and if you have no other option, I mean, it's better that someone's watching your kids. I think secular after school programs would be better. Yeah, I would agree that I don't think here's just an interesting way of putting it. My wife, I have zero experience with religious instruction. I've never had any of it in my entire life. My wife is from a Muslim background, but she went to Catholic schools growing up because they were a better quality school than the public schools of the area. But she had overall a fine experience, but definitely cites the religious aspects as weird, and not, not ideal for her to have to deal with. I think that it's possible that that was outweighed by just having a better education in general, from the the non-religious parts. But I mean, I don't want to get too far from the point. I like, because the thing is, I don't think that any of this like religious after school instruction is like a religion 101, analytical course where you're looking at different religions and analyzing them in a sociological context. I would imagine that it's like, here's this guy Jesus, and this is all the stuff he did. Which no, I don't believe that to be helpful. I can't imagine how that could be helpful to a developing mind.
There are people who argue that we should be teaching the fundamentals, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and I would agree with that to a large degree. But with the after school thing, it's not just that they're teaching things that kids don't need to know. They are lying to kids. And it is to their detriment, not just to separate them from their families, not just to push their socio-political, because it's largely politics. Part of the reason that religion is so irrational is that it is political. They're trying to get these children to evangelize to their own parents. But the effect that it has when you indoctrinate children, I talk regularly. I meet people who say that they've lived their entire lives in lies, that they were fed bullshit all their lives, and they're just now waking up to the fact that the people that they trusted most in their whole formative years had lied to them. What happens to a lot of these kids, they're taught not to think critically. They're taught not to think, just blindly believe whatever stupidity some liar feeds you, and never question that, because if you question the lies from the podium, then they threaten you with a fate worse than death. And a lot of kids never recover their cognitive faculties from that. That stunts their intellectual growth. It is child abuse. And I know I'm going to be doing this debate this weekend on this, where another atheist is going to be he's going to be arguing that there's some positive effect to religious instruction. I mean, I want to be completely reasonable, but let's be absolutely factual. Religion is a bunch of lies, and that's it. And the net effect has always been negative. It has always retarded, impeded, or reversed progress in every application that it has ever touched. It's factually false throughout. It's entirely emotive. It relies on every logical fallacy there ever was. Go through a list of logical fallacies and notice that every single one of them has been used as an argument for God, and that every argument for God you've ever heard, whether it comes from William Lane Craig or whoever, Paley or whoever, they're all logical fallacies. They're all fundamentally flawed, every last one of them.
I just want to echo one specific thing that you said, though. I mean, just to hone in on the most important part, I don't know what kind of religious instruction this is, but if you're talking to a child about hell and how they might go there, and definitely all the guilt associated with like sexual thoughts and things like that, there are a lot of people who can never have regular sex lives after that. I mean, it's traumatic. This kind of stuff is traumatic. So I don't know what kind of curriculum we're talking about, but if it includes any of that stuff, yeah, it is definitely psychologically damaging and borderline, or I mean, yeah, qualifies as child abuse in a certain context. Yeah.
I will argue that when we're talking about the good news clubs, there's nothing good about the good news clubs. Now, people will say that their kids enjoy the social interaction. And of course, parents who don't have babysitters and don't come home until after 6, they want somebody to watch their kids for another 3 hours. I get where they get the benefit out of that. They don't understand what's happening to their kids' minds in those atmospheres. But as you know, in recent videos that I posted on my channel, we've been promoting After School Satan, and they don't teach Satanism. They teach secular lessons. They're teaching science. They're teaching shit we can prove to be true.
Let's check in with Jasmine.
Well, I don't know. I think certainly the Satanist Club would be a good alternative, but if you don't have anything and you still want your children to learn about Christianity, I mean, if you know what about Christianity, you know what you're not, at least. I mean,
What do you mean by that? I don't understand.
oh well,
If
like
you know,
if you know about Christianity, then you know what its flaws are, right? So if children learn early about Christianity, they can tell if they can decide eventually if they're a Christian or not.
I mean, if you contextualize it for them, if they come home and talk to you about what they learned and you tell them what's wrong about what they learned, I guess. And I mean, again, if you're talking about a situation where you can't afford a better option or you have a schedule due to your job or something where you're trying to decide between this and no childcare at all, I mean, yeah, that's a different story. I think we're just trying to, Aron and I are just talking about what could potentially be detrimental with what they're talking about in there. But again, you know, I don't know what kind of program this is. It could be just like playing guitars and singing hymns and stuff, or it could be this is all this, you know, like I case by case, right? But I think it would help if you would contextualize what they learn and talk to them about what is not true that they're being told, if you have no other choice, I guess.
Okay, I guess that's all my questions. Thank you for having me, and fuck you, Jimmy.
Jimmy, go fuck.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Yeah, and, you know, I would just like to add that the After School Satan Club, because they don't teach Satanism, that it's basically a class in, you know, teach my child something useful and don't lie to them. That's what After School Satan is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we're going to look at the next calls that we have here, and let me see who we have. We have another theist coming up, Emmanuel, and he's in Texas, where I am. Says, how do I talk to? Oh, I must have misread that. Oh, there we go. There is evidence to show the New Testament apostles impossible. Was that a Freudian?
Okay, hang on. This is just getting worse. Hey, Emmanuel, say something.
Hello?
Okay, your audio is awful. What can you do about it?
Maybe pull over.
One more time. What can you do?
It's really bad.
Okay, it's now better. Maintain whatever's going on, because it literally sounded like you were underwater or some shit.
Oh, okay.
I thought he was on a freeway.
I thought he was on a plane.
So can I ask Aron Ra one thing?
You may ask Aron, yes?
Would you say that there is no God, or would you say that there's no sufficient evidence that there's a God? There's no God. Which one
For
would
many
you?
years, I was the type of atheist who would say that there wasn't sufficient reason to believe that there is a God. Now, however, after I think I've done sufficient study to realize that God is not even a possibility.
So you're saying there's no chance that there might be a creator, right?
There's literally not
So
even
that,
a possibility.
okay. So also, would you say that there is no afterlife, or would you say that there's no sufficient evidence that there's no afterlife?
Again, once upon a time, and for many years, I was the type of atheist who held the position that there was insufficient evidence of an afterlife. I now have realized that there's not only is there no evidence of an afterlife or of a supernatural soul, but we have sufficient evidence that neither of these things exists. So now we have an evidence-based position that neither exists. I've talked to neurophilosophers, neuroscientists, and a number of experts in this to realize that we don't have an afterlife. We are our bodies. We are not a ghost in a machine. When our body dies, there's not an aspect of ourselves that gets out of this body and can possibly inhabit another body and go drive that like a vehicle, or to go hang out in some lounge forever after that. No, we are not computers. When our brains shut down, the data is not stored. It's not like you can let it sit on a shelf for 10 years, plug it into something else, take the hard drive out, put it into a different computer, and have that other computer understand that data. No. Once the static has drained out of this collection of chemical synapses, it's gone, baby.
Okay. So, my argument is basically that so if we don't have any kind of afterlife, where does our spirit go after we die?
What makes you think we have a spirit?
I mean, we have a spirit, like that's like
What makes you think we have a spirit? Because we don't. Definitely not. There is no such thing.
okay, there's no spirit. So if there's
Nope.
no spirit, why don't we have like body autonomy over ourselves if there's no external spirit? So
What?
why don't we have like a free will if there's no spirit controlling us?
Because there's no spirit. We don't
So
have free will because we are a chemical construct devoid of spirit. The things that you decide to do, the way that you're going to behave, is a product of your chemical physiognomy and your upbringing, your training, your conditioning, and so forth. That's why we can figure out how to manipulate you. We can figure out exactly how you're going to respond to given stimuli. We've taught you a certain way. You've developed a certain way. You have a certain genetic propensity. You have the propensities to a particular position. You are therefore predictable. That's why you don't have free will. You don't have a spirit. There is no such thing as spirit.
but my argument is so what I think is the reason why we don't have like a free will, or the reason we can't make like an accurate decision on our lives. What I think is, for example, even our lust is like controlled by the spirit. So our spirit kind of like
No, your
that.
lust is entirely chemical. It's entirely chemical. You are a hormonal monster. Everything that governs whether you're horny or not, whether you respond to certain visual stimuli, whether the mood music sets you ablaze, all chemical. Your spirit ain't got fuck all to do with it.
And rather well understood.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Dave. I wish there would be more things focused on you. I feel that too many people have been paying more attention to me.
Well,
I know me. I would rather.
Yeah,
I would rather things be focused on you.
you threw out a lot of stuff there. I mean, it's incredible to think that I'm a little softer. I have a slightly softer position on some of these things than you. I like, for example, I would be still in a position where I say I don't see sufficient evidence for a God. I don't see sufficient evidence for an afterlife or anything like that. I also don't know if I maintain that there could be free will, but none of these, no position around those, like none of these positions point to a spirit or a soul. The idea of a soul is just is a relic. It's just a relic from a time where we had absolutely no comprehension of human anatomy and physiology. I'm sympathetic to the idea of a soul as something that somebody would believe 500 years ago or earlier, because we just had no idea how anything worked in here at all. So it's a logical conclusion in absence of knowledge. But, as you were saying, I mean, it's interesting that you turned to lust, the callers talking about lust, because it's something that we feel very intensely, but that's why the church brainwashes you with it. And that's what I was talking about earlier about the after school care. It is a prerogative of religion to try and make you feel guilt or shame regarding something that you have no control over, because we all feel lust. Well, not all. There are asexual people, but the vast majority of us have a lot of experience with lust. And so this idea that it must come from some kind of nebulous immaterial thing that is obviously from God, and then God controls how we feel lust or we should feel shame about it or anything like that. I just really wish, Emmanuel, that you would maybe untether yourself from this idea that lust is anything other than a natural physical process that humans feel, and other animals too. And I don't know if you have any hang-ups about your lust, or if you feel any shame or guilt about your lust, but if you do, don't do that. Yeah.
So what I would use is like so it's something that is against my master words. So if my master doesn't want me to have lust, why would I do it? It's like a contradiction to the Lord's word. So
let me just clarify a couple of things, if I may jump in here. You think that you have a spirit because, as Dave was pointing out, people way back when didn't know fuck all about anything. They knew that you would die if you can't breathe, and they didn't know that air was particulate matter. They didn't know anything about oxygen and nitrogen and carbon dioxide being mixed together. They didn't know how these things change, how it's dynamic, dependent on temperature and humidity and things like that. They thought when the wind moved things, it was magic. They thought it was spiritual. When they saw a dust devil, they literally thought it was a devil. Okay, so when they saw tornadoes, they thought it's God. When they saw clouds moving, they thought it's the Spirit of God. When they felt the wind, then God is angry. You breathe in and out, and when you stop doing that, you're dead. And that's why that's why Hebrew tradition talks about the breath of life. It's spirit, it's breathing. That's what they thought it was. The reason you think you have a soul is because primitive people who wrote these fables thought that air was magic. They thought that air was spirit. And bad, evil spirits or foul vapors or whatever. When the reason why they say bless you when you sneeze, what is sneezing or coughing? These are the onsets of spreading a spirit, a foul vapor to other people that will then cause them to be ill. Well, these are just spreading demons, right? They don't know what air is. That's the whole problem. There is no spirit. There's only air, and these people don't understand anything about infectious microbes. When you get into Jesus doesn't know about anything about microbes. He thinks diseases are caused by demons. This is not the guy you want to take medical advice from. He doesn't know anything. So you think there's a spirit because people don't know what air is.
No, I think there's a spirit because when I read epistles of Paul, especially the New Testament, it talks about us living the spirit and going to God. So That's why I think
you think there's a spirit because you read a story about a guy who didn't know what spirit is, who thought that the air was spiritual. So when in the Bible it says that only the spirit of God moved over the face of the waters, they're talking about the wind.
Yeah, but this is not a story. This is a doctrine.
I'm going to jump in again.
And the doctrine is a story.
Real quick, just so you know, last time I was on with Emmanuel acknowledged that evolution is an established fact, but because the Bible disagrees with it, he does too. Just so you know, those exact words. Just so you know who you're talking to right now. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for that. I feel it's appropriate to move on to the next caller then.
Hold on. Let me say one thing though. Emmanuel, this thing about the lust and your creator not wanting you to feel lust, just if I can give you some food for thought, you believe in a creator that implanted lust within you and then gets mad at you for feeling it, and yet you think that he is benevolent. I'd like for you to chew on that and ruminate on that when you go to sleep tonight.
Okay. I don't think he's benevolent for everyone. I just think he's benevolent to the chosen one. So what I think is God has like chosen a certain people, and he shows benevolence only to those who have.
And he's a jerk to the rest.
And just remember,
okay, I'm sorry.
If it ever happens that you have sex with a woman, know that your God is watching, and wonder what he's doing with his hands.
Yeah, but he's a spirit, so it doesn't really arouse him.
Then why would he get so upset about it? Why does he care? He had a manufacturer's defect. He put human being males on recall because, whoops, we made a mistake. We put the little bit of extra skin on the end of your penis. Why? Because it increases your sensitivity on the end of your penis, and it also eases entry for the woman. So it's beneficial for both of you. Therefore, I want you to cut it off. Why do I want you to cut it off? Because it's really sensitive, and because to get people to do that just shows a complete commitment to bullshit. And I have a bunch of people who are my prophets who want to sell you on bullshit, and they want to really, really know that you really believe the bullshit they're selling. So you have to cut off the tip of your penis because God made a mistake and gave you too much skin on the end of your dick, so chop it off. This is the God you worship?
I don't want to chop it off. But what I would say is...
Did Jesus not say to cut off your testicles for the love of God?
No, he said...
Why haven't you done that?
No, he said pluck out your eyes. That's what it said.
Why haven't you done that?
Because it's scary to do it. But I know it's
because Jesus is a bullshit story. It's not just that Jesus was a liar. Jesus was a lie.
Okay, if he is a lie, how did he resurrect from the dead?
How did a lie not? If Darth Vader wasn't really Luke Skywalker's father, then how did he live? In a galaxy far, far away a long time ago.
I don't believe that story that you just said.
Oh, you don't believe that story. You believe the other bullshit story. It's just as stupid. You believe that Jesus was resurrected. That's a whole other bullshit story. We could spend so much more time wasting on talking about, and I would love to do that. If you want to have a conversation with me, just alone, you and me one-on-one on that, I would entertain that because that I could really have fun with that one. But we're going to have to get to another caller tonight.
I think we should let him go. But Emmanuel, I genuinely hope that you can get past this hang-up you have about lust and sex, because sex is one of the best parts of life, and you can have a normal sex life that can enhance your experience on this earth. And I hope you get there.
I get where these people get frustrated, though, because, sex does prompt you when you're really hormonally driven, especially when you're an awkward teenager. It does prompt you to do things that you might wish the next morning that you didn't do.
That's right.
And that's where I think... Yep, exactly.
Yeah. all these deadly sins are just things that could elicit immoral behavior in you if you are not a mature person. Right? That's all it is. Greed, gluttony. Right? If you're a glutton, you might eat so much food that a hungry person might not get any. Okay, it doesn't mean that you liking food is a sin, right?
Yeah,
It's
gluttony is a sin, by the way. But
yeah, no, it isn't. But it means what I just said, right? It's not immoral to like to eat food a lot. That's ridiculous that anyone would think that that's an evil thing, an evil desire, right? It's greed is a sin because it can drive you to steal, right? If you steal things, that's immoral. But the act of the experience of wanting something that someone else has is not sinful. You're not hurting anybody. So they just teach you that because they need you to feel guilt all the time in order to be receptive to brainwashing.
And just remember that vanity, jealousy, vengeance, and wrath are all sins. They're part of they're more than half of the 7 deadly sins, and God is guilty of all of them.
Yeah, definitely wrath. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna drop Emmanuel.
Thank you, Aaron.
And I'm gonna pick up another call.
Thank you.
So this is interesting. We have someone identifying by the pronouns she, her, but using the name Jacob. The reason I find that interesting is there's some names that don't really play in both genders. It's kind of like Edgar. What a lovely girl. Her name is Edgar. So anyway, we are talking to Jacob. And Jacob, you are on the line.
Hello. Hello there.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah. I'm kind of going through the questioning process right now, so I'm just using she, her for now.
Okay.
So
I didn't mean to make. I hope I didn't say anything that was offensive.
Oh, you're good. I can understand it.
I can be a dick, but I wasn't trying to be. It happens accidentally quite often.
I know.
So do please continue.
Right. So the main reason I called is I want to learn how I can be better prepared with talking with theists about evolution and such.
Oh, there's not an easy answer to that.
Well, not any one solution, yeah, but I guess it's more how can I help become prepared in general. Because I'm not that great at debates in person, so I wanted to look into ways how I can improve that and become more confident and such. Yeah,
my recommendation.
I was talking with someone today, and I wasn't able to remember specific evidence and such.
Yeah, you have to know. It's not like a normal conversation. You have to know all of their talking points, right? The creationists have a script. And they all regurgitate this same script with very little variation. And it's got a lot of talking points on it. But if you take the time to just learn all of it and have your responses prepared, they don't stand a chance because they don't actually have anything intelligent to say. So you can just debunk it on the spot if you're prepared. Sometimes it can take you off guard. It can catch you off guard if you don't know a particular thing that they're saying. So
I gotcha. Yeah, I guess aside from that, I want to know how I can speak as clearly as you two, because y'all can speak pretty well and such, and y'all really don't appear to be nervous and all.
I've been studying this one thing for a quarter century intently.
That is fair.
Yeah, and so and Dave, in his areas, he's well beyond me. I mean, I can't even compete with the areas that he talks about. So I mean, there's no replacing putting in the homework.
That's fair.
Also,
and so I guess the more I learn, the more confident I'll get.
Mm-hmm. What is it that's at stake that would cause you to be nervous? I mean, there's really not anything to lose. Either you get through to them or you don't. You typically won't, and that's life.
Yeah, I guess it's more wanting to prove myself and such.
I got a good suggestion
I
for
know
you.
my stuff.
Believers hate nothing more than the burden of proof. Honestly, so
That's fair. Yeah.
They want you to think that anything that science can't answer is therefore evidence of God. It's not.
Right.
So a thing exists, and there's two possible explanations for it. Well, actually, there's only one possible explanation, and then there's the religious one. But
Oh yeah.
they want you to think that, I don't know, therefore magic, therefore God. But no, that we don't assume that
Gotcha.
there's a God. You have to show that there's a God. You have to show that magic is involved. Right? So how did life
Gotcha.
begin? That's their favorite argument. How did life begin? I don't know. You tell me. Well, a magic invisible man said abracadabra. You know what? I'm not going to take that argument. I don't think that's valid. Can you show me a peer-reviewed scientific article where leading experts in the field said, I don't know, therefore magic invisible man? They're going to fail.
I gotcha.
Every time. You don't know how,
Yeah.
you don't have to know fuck all about it to call them out and say, back up your bullshit.
The Socratic method. Just why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? Put them into a position that is absurd and indefensible.
Right. Yeah, I guess that helped. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and drop the call.
And also, fuck you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
I love this.
Why do you do that? What is that?
Everyone just hates me.
Well, okay, because Jimmy came up with this accidentally brilliant thing where he doesn't like me.
I thought it would be funnier to not tell Dave, but it's already begun. Just because it's going to keep happening in super chats too, and so. But it's you can explain if you like. It's already started.
Well, yeah, because I did something similar once upon a time. Jimmy and I share one thing in common, if only this one thing, is that we don't really like to take compliments, because what do you do with that? You just feel awkward. And so what Jimmy had asked people to do is to tell him to go fuck himself. And the brilliant thing, the accidentally brilliant thing about that is that people can no longer insult him either. Because while the people that want to call him, want to compliment him, want to appreciate what he does, and I personally appreciate very much what Jimmy does, but I can't compliment him because I know exactly what that feels like for me. But I can tell him to go fuck himself, and he will appreciate that. And then the people who hate him will be trying to say the same thing, and so he just got more fans as a result.
You neutralize the naysayers and compliment under the radar.
The new one is people tell me to go guzzle vegan cheese. It's
okay. I'm not even going to try to figure that one out.
There was a challenge on the Transatlantic Call-In show. The loser on the next episode has to drink 4 ounces of vegan cheese sauce all at once, guzzle it. Anyway, so then just the phrase "go guzzle vegan cheese" has become a thing, because regardless of if you're a vegan or not, I think all of us agree that vegan cheese smells like ass.
I couldn't tell you. I still eat meat. I don't know. And I realize I'm not going to even get into the whole thing, but I understand the hypocrisy there. Yes, I'm a hypocrite. I'm dealing with it. I don't see any other calls that I could accept.
No, yeah, we're jumping to super chats. Super chat time, my friend.
We're jumping to super chats. Okay.
Hell yeah.
Dave,
this isn't
before we continue, I want to appreciate you being on the show. I always enjoy having you on. I've always enjoyed our conversations.
Absolutely, yeah. Happy to do it. I'm really enjoying ramping up this aspect of my activity. I love coming on shows like this, and hope to do more of it. Yeah.
Okay, so $10 from Aquasora Disorati. What a treat on my birthday. Dave and Aron. I have Aron's book. Need to get Dave's. Love you both and what you do. Outstanding. Thank you very much for that. We're going to alternate, Dave, so you're going to read the next one.
Okay. $9.99 from the Raven 200. Aron, your snake Abath is beautiful. How long have you had Abath? And has Abath tried to convince you to eat from any fruit trees lately? And if so, where can I find such a snake? Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
Thank you very much. The Raven 200 has Abath is the singer from Immortal, and more recently from the band named after him. Abath uses that face makeup. The snake directly behind me also has that face makeup. And so I was going to pull him out earlier today, but he gets very cage skittish, and he's mildly venomous, so I don't fuck with him if I want to piss him off. But thank you for asking the question. And no, he hasn't tried to convince me to eat anything. I did just get another false water cobra, by the way, so I have 2 of them now. All right, we continue to the next one. Nilly is offering $50 Canadian. Nilly Wilson says, Dave and Aron, you are both excellent. Keep dunking on theists and people spreading misinformation. Jimmy, go fuck yourself. I'm glad we explained that because Dave would be so confused.
Yeah, it would have been so great by now. He'd have been uncomfortable, I think.
People already did it, so I knew it was a joke. I just didn't know what it was from.
Oh, I see. By the way, I think in the same way that I had missed your Joseph Smith pun, I'm pretty sure you just missed the pun in Nilly Wilson, but maybe not.
I probably did.
Yeah, it's just Willie Nelson if you switch the letters.
Yeah, and my given name was Nelson, so I was always say, "Are you related to Willie? Are you related to Ricky? Are you yeah, Ozzy and Harriet? Yeah, fuck you."
You've lived a rough life, my friend.
$10 from Too Young to Feel This Old. 2 of my favorite creators together. Thank you all at the line for putting this together. Love you all, except Jimmy. Jimmy can go F himself. Heart emoji.
You can't actually say fuck in a super chat. Just a reminder to anybody else who's trying to figure out what they're doing here. We're doing super chats, any of $10 or more. A little bit of higher threshold tonight because we do want to end a little bit earlier tonight. But any of $10 or more, we've got a few lined up here, and then we'll call it a night. Anyway, here's the next one for Aron.
What I like about this is that we really didn't need to explain shit today because with that one, he would definitely have figured it out on his own. $10 from He Was Fuzzy Wuzzy. Huge fan of Aron and Professor Dave. You two are among my favorite educators and the best at debunking all the creationists. Here's hoping to see more of Professor Dave on the line. Yeah, I want to throw that in also, by the way, because I do appreciate your content. I've watched a lot of it, and it's good.
Thank you. Yeah. £10 from Pancaking On. So keen to say the funny thing that I resent the super chat. That's all well and good, Aron, but have you ever seen a bird turn into a duck? I ought to watch your vids, Dave, and also go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
If there was any chance that Dave hadn't figured out what the joke was by now.
Yeah, pretty persistent here.
Have you ever seen a bird turn into a duck, though? Why are you dodging the question? Have you ever seen a bird turn into a... Have you ever seen an ape give birth to a man?
Yeah, every moment, every time I've ever looked at a duck, in fact.
Why are you avoiding the question? This is so. Aron, are you aware you went viral on Reddit? Did you know this happened?
Yeah, somebody pointed. I've seen so many other people make videos about this, and I had no idea when I was talking to this guy that it was going to go anywhere. I had no idea who he was. I thought maybe 50 people are going to see this. I had no idea it was going to explode like that.
Yeah, millions of people. Basically, Dave, if you haven't seen it, Jesse Lee Peterson kept asking Aron, have you ever seen an ape give birth to a man? And so Aron would repeat, have you ever seen a bird give birth to a duck? And it went big and viral.
I didn't know you talked to Jesse. Did you know that I talked to him once too? Was it on Modern Day Debate or...
Did you really? You talked to Jesse Lee Peterson?
Yeah, it was.
And you're okay.
Yeah, no, it was weird. It was the weirdest experience of my life, probably.
I was invited on, but I turned it down, and I actually kind of regret it.
It was right after I did the Kent one, and James wanted me to do another one, so he offered me the Jesse one, and I was just fresh off it, like, yeah, I'll do another one, whatever. And it was just so unbelievably unproductive. It was insane.
That man was, he asked me questions like, which one is worse, your wife or your mother? The fuck kind of question is that?
Yeah,
your
daddy is Satan, and women can't have love, and like, it's just like, and then he was super duper homophobic, and then it recently came out that he's gay. Of course, obviously, every religious homophobe is gay.
It's every homophobe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he still denies it. All those pornos he liked, it was a slip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should be a senator.
Yeah. No, that guy, he very clearly has like mental, like actual mental disorder, like biological, like some kind of, I don't know what, but cognitive defects. Yeah.
So $20 from David Smith. I would love to shake the hand of the guy who officially turned Aron Ra into an atheist and thank the group of dominionists who bragged that they were trying to take over everything and turned Aron Ra into an atheist activist. Thank you very much for that. Sincerely.
I mean, technically, Aron Ra turned Aron Ra into an atheist, but
well, no, they're full on in my backstory because
yeah,
I mean, I was activated by some alarming fucking people that I met online. I'm like, something's got to be done to stop you guys.
My go-to response, and to the point that I had a draft version of it in email because I've gotten it thousands of times now, is like, "Thank you, Jimmy. You turned me into an atheist." And I always started with like, "Nah, man, you turned you into an atheist, but I appreciate the that I'm glad I was a part of your journey."
The power was in you all along.
But I do have Dumbo ears. That was a Dumbo reference, right? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
$9.99 from the Raven 200 again. I've been doing a lot of research in developmental psychology for the past week or so for one of my classes. Some of the old ideas people used to have about childhood development are insane. Yeah, what were some of them? I can't recall off the top of my head.
Were you conditioned against using left-handed scissors because being left-handed was wrong?
No, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, that was just my generation.
Mm-hmm. Well, also your region, I think. in Connecticut, we didn't have that so much. No, yeah, there were left-handed kids, and it was just like, oh, interesting, you're left-handed. Yeah, you're so sinister.
Okay, so $20 from, I'm gonna guess that's Bat Dad. Bat Dad.
It's actually it's close. It's actually pronounced Bat Dad, but you were close.
Welcome, Dave. Been a fan for a while, so it's great to see you here. You guys make a great team. Aron, always nice to see you here as well. Jimmy, happy belated birthday. S3 sex is great, so I hope you got a chance to go fuck yourself.
Yes, I did deliver the birthday sex to myself. Thank you.
It's always nice to have someone help out.
It's true. It's
even when they are not as efficient as you are.
On my birthday, it was either on my birthday or the day before, someone called in and said, I like to believe, I think they said like, I like to believe I'm a skeptic. And I wrote to like, I like to believe I'm going to get laid tonight, but doesn't mean it's going to happen. Yeah, it did not. It turns out if you wake up and you start work and then you work until you go to bed, you have very little sex in your life. Anyway,
let me ask you seriously, because I mean we skipped a show for your birthday, and I want to think that that you did something.
Yeah, I did an extra long show. We skipped a show on your channel, and then we did a 4-hour show on the line, and then a Zoom with patrons after. I only work, my guy. That's the only thing I do.
I've figured that out. That's why I asked the question. It was just confirmation.
Yeah, I ordered a pizza and a cake.
Nice.
I'm going to read the next one because it's directed to production, and I'm going to roast the fuck out of this piece of shit. $10 from I'm Not David said, I know how to fix your delay problem. Who should I email? It's seriously the most annoying thing about your show, and it's baffling to me that nobody else has solved this. And then after he had said that, he sent a chat and said, I know I could have just emailed, but I wanted to publicly embarrass you by sending the super chat. And I have given I'm Not David my email, and I said, get it in before your super chat comes up. Unfortunately, this tech genius was not able to get the email into me within that 20 to 40 minute time period. Physically, we are now, I think thermodynamics is the remainder of the delay. There is no physical way to improve the delay without physically replacing connections between myself and the hosts. ourselves and the call-in system, and not to mention the host to each other. There's like multiple points of servers, and we still have the delay now down to under 1.5 seconds at the worst points. But if Emmanuel calls from a potato like he did, I can't change the network connection of Emmanuel. There's nothing I can do for people who call in. Now, in this scenario, one of the things we were running into is Dave has an awesome computer, which noise cancels when the speakers are going so that the microphone doesn't pick them up. And what was happening is Aron would talk and it would mute his microphone. So anyway, thanks. You really pulled off embarrassing me, whoever I'm Not David is, but kindly, and I don't mean it the way everyone means it to when they say it to me, go fuck yourself. All right, I'm done.
So when on this podcast, what I'm connected to Jimmy's system, my transmission may be going direct to Austin, which may be where Jimmy is, but Professor Dave, because he's in some lofty leftist place, is probably being routed through Seattle first and then back. So that's your 1.5 seconds.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to the email where I'm going to be embarrassed. I'm also just taking shots of hot sauce over here. Anyway, moving on.
Doing shots sounds like a great thing we should be doing.
I don't drink though, so I'm literally just putting Tapatio salsa picante on my hand and just licking it for some reason.
Well, we can do that too.
Hell yeah. I'm very sensitive about production matters. I'm sure no one's picked that up. Sorry to make you a part of that, Dave, me bitching at a mean comment.
Air your grievances.
Thank you. Anyway, here's more.
Who are we on?
Dave, I think you're going to read like all of the Raven 200, which upsets me because I think the Raven 200 is more directed toward me. We're both Immortal fans.
Okay, you go for it. You can do this one.
Okay, 1999 from the Raven 200. Aron, can you use your best Southern Texas draw to call me a book-learning liberal sheep? If not, that's cool. Here's some free money anyway. Also, thank you for your video series on disproving Noah's flood. Very well done. Thank you very much for that.
In a Southern drawl, sheep sounds more like the word shape. You said sheep, but it should be shape. You book-learning liberal shape.
You bunch of shape.
Goddamn shape.
You like your books.
This one's
he
confusing.
got book learning, but he ain't got no common sense. I heard that growing up over and over again. What the hell is wrong with book learning?
It's hard to learn. What's this? Thank you, A.O. Turner, for the $50 with a super sticker.
Yeah, we can't put super stickers on the thing, so I typed in the chat so we would thank A.O. Turner, and then I forgot to put a space between. Boy, I picked too hot a hot sauce to do this with casually. Whew. Anyway.
Since you don't drink, Jimmy, we should go out eating at some point, because I got some. I know a couple places that will get you drunk just with food.
Oh yeah, I love food. I was gonna say you've seen me, but you haven't yet in person. But do I love food. Anyway, I should.
Wait,
Dave, is this yours?
What is that? Oh no, I was asking what part of Texas are you guys in?
I'm near Austin.
Oh, both of you?
Yeah, and okay. I'm near Dallas.
Okay, because I was going to say it does look like the James Tour debate is going to be happening in Houston. That's not super close to you guys, though. But
I pop over to Houston periodically.
Yeah, it's only I don't fly if it's less than 7 hours.
Who's hosting it?
It's going to be at Rice. I still don't have the exact details, but he insists that the venue.
Are you seriously going to debate James fucking Tour?
Yeah. Come watch.
I have to know when that is. I will be physically in the room.
Yeah, May 19th. Drive down and have a question ready for him.
All right. I just said I was going to be physically in the room, and I'm thinking I'm already booked somewhere else. I didn't know about it until just now, so I'm going to have to check my calendar. If I can be, I will be physically in the room. I may be in another country.
Okay, well then you can't. But it's actually I still have to get final confirmation. It's been almost a month back and forth of trying to get this finalized, but that does look like it's going to happen. So
I would be happy to be there. I would have to happily be there just for immoral support.
Yes. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay, $10 from Zbeev, Golden Calf. Any book suggestions? I don't read books. I don't have time to read books. I don't have the luxury. I can't remember.
Do you find that all you read anymore are peer-reviewed articles?
Yes. I don't have time to read. I don't have time to do anything for leisure, let alone read. I mean, I don't have leisure time. My goal is to get leisure time back in my life, but for the time being, I don't have any. So I do not read for leisure. Yeah.
$10 from James Call. Welcome, Professor Dave, and hello, Aron. Would I have my flying car by now if not for religion? Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
You can make Jimmy is good.
Jimmy is getting all the fucks.
Yeah. I think that you can make the argument that we would have a lot more technological advancement by now, simply by cutting the dark ages out and just like maintaining. Like, imagine if you can maintain the progress of Greek civilization and just like continue that frenetically for 2,000 years. Probably be a lot further along by now.
I'm just curious. I get the question. That's Dave just said the right answer to the question, except for that flawed to me. And the question is, helicopters have existed for a long time. What do you think a flying car is? Just saying.
Well, like in Star Wars or something.
Hovers. They want to hover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
Well, helicopters hover.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Those
just kind of one of those.
Silently with a big nuclear glow at the bottom. That's the good stuff.
$9.99 from the Raven 200. Emmanuel has admitted a few times in his past calls he is afraid of committing blasphemy. He has been conditioned to never venture outside his teachings for fear of going to hell. It's really sad. Fortunately, I was raised on heavy metal. So, I mean, I was taught to chant, "I'll see you in hell, my friend. I'll see you in hell."
It is sad. I mean, I knew you can tell he goes straight to lust, right? I don't know what his sexual orientation is. If it's homosexuality, then there's even more shame put upon him.
He's expressed at least one time attraction to someone we had on who was a lesbian, but a woman. I think he's at minimum likes women. But so Emmanuel's been on a ton of times. It's almost like a rite of passage. You're like an official guest host now because you've dealt with him.
Great. I mean, he was polite, but I do. Yeah, it is sad. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for anybody who feels so much turmoil over literally nothing. I mean, it's just like life is stressful enough. Life is hard, and there's a lot to deal with, and you don't need to invent new things to be stressed about that are just fabrications out of thin air. You know what I mean? It's a shame.
What's worse than having an invisible friend is having an invisible enemy.
Yeah.
Which of us is reading now?
I think it's my turn. $49.99 from Ben Davis. Sorry, I missed my screening turn. Won't happen again. I hope this helps.
That's Ben. You didn't have to do that, by the way. But Ben was the screener today. He had some work stuff last minute and wasn't able to screen. So, but that's very kind of you, Ben. It's very nice.
So you're feeling guilty about all that horrible, hateful shit you said about Ben before he showed up?
All of it, yeah. Yeah, Ben is the worst. And you should know, not everyone knows you're joking. Some of us wouldn't know that was a joke. We all hate ourselves.
I am completely joking. But I'm not joking.
He's not
about
kidding.
This.
I said
Professor Dave. let me help you with. There's something about your production standards. I mean, we're looking at maybe problems with green screen effects. I'm not sure, but when I look at your background, there are no snakes. I mean, like none.
Yeah, no, I'm not much of a pet owner, especially exotic pets. No, yeah, no pets. I haven't had a pet in my entire adult life. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot of work. Maybe a snake, not as much, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's still, yeah. You wouldn't. You'd be surprised how many chores I have to do that are snake related daily. Okay, so $10 from Taishi Kojima. I hope I said that right. Aron and Dave, I love your work. Your channels have been wonderful resource in combating bullshit. I hope to see more of Dave in the future. Now, if only someone would fire that cheese guzzler Jimmy.
Corporate should really fire his ass. I'm sad they stopped. It's because I kept making fun of them on Twitter. But my favorite comment, we'd get several a week, would be literally something like, I really like the line, but I wish they would let go of Jimmy. Or I really like the line, but I wish whoever's running it would fire Jimmy finally. And I would just post that basically with the caption like, yeah, corporate should fire that fucker. And now people have figured it out. I kind of miss those comments.
Yeah, by the way, I was not at all kidding about if you're debating James Tour. Did you say May 19th?
That's what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I am not booked to be in Canada that weekend, I think I might be, but if I am not booked to be in Canada that weekend, I will definitely be there, literally to give you a moral support.
Fingers crossed. We know he's going to try to pack that thing with his church pals. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Homie, I'll be there with fucking flyers for them to call our show.
I will so be there for that. I don't know what it is about confrontation.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
All right, so is it yours or mine? The comment, yeah. Which is it?
$10 from Taishi Kojima. Also for Jimmy, sublate V to keep one's dom waiting, and this incur the paddle. Wow.
I think
they meant thus.
It was supposed to be a definition, sublate verb to keep one's dom waiting, and and thus incur the paddle. There was a caller who was called on who tries to use Jordan Peterson language. His name's Clark. He actually got banned from the show after Matt's call with him yesterday when he started going after Matt's weight when he was losing the debate. Anyway, the guy likes to say, oh, so would you agree that the sublation of ethical inquiries is propositional or shit like that? And he uses these terms, and then at one point he called me, who is autistic, a slow boy, which is an autistic slur, called me a slow boy who doesn't understand philosophy, and then revealed in yesterday's call that he was not aware of what the phrase hard solipsism means. But he's a philosophy boy. Yeah.
Even I know what solipsism.
Yeah, I know. It's like, that's fucking week 4, year 1, bro. Anyway, whatever. Tremendous.
So $10 from Alien X Gaming. Aron and Dave, been watching a lot of your videos over again lately. Amazing stuff, by the way. Jimmy Chug-a-dee. Have no idea what they mean.
Chug a dick, I assume. I'm queer though, so this is, I assume, well wishes.
Aron and Dave, you guys are amazing at what you do, and I appreciate everything you do. Go fuck yourself.
Yourselves, presumably.
Yeah, this one wasn't isolated to me. I hope it was nice.
I'm going to take it that way.
$10 from Matt C. Professor Dave, your debate with Flat Earth Dave is the funniest debate I've ever seen. I could watch it over and over. And I think many do, because that has racked up quite a viewership, which is really the only reason I did it anyway. Well, to humiliate him. Very quickly, tell me about that one. I'm not aware of that one. So this guy, Dave White, so at this point, like all flat earthers, I'm flat earth enemy number 1, just because I have, of anyone who has ever made flat earth debunking content, mine is the most viewed. If you try to search flat earth on YouTube, my debunks come up, right? So I'm the number one shill. I'm the number one whatever, blah, blah, blah. So all of them want to take me down, and they make their dumb little videos. But Dave Weiss mustered up the courage to try to want to, or to debate me. This other channel, Sean Atwood, reached out to me to see if I would debate him. And I thought, and that guy, Sean's channel had like 700,000 subscribers or something like that. So I was like, all right, I'll pick up a few subs and I'll humiliate this guy, and then I'll repost it on my channel and I'll get a ton of views and I'll make money from that. So that's exactly what happened. It was a mess. He was just a blithering idiot, and I just made fun of him the whole time. So, yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you. $9.99 from Neck2. Love you both. Aron, your book was dope. Same for Dave. Dave, I'm a big fan of your music. You still play live, tour? Any plans to? New albums?
The plans are in place. Definitely. It's my primary goal in life is to be a musician. I just moved into this house a few months ago, and about 3 weeks ago, I just finished converting the garage into a music studio. So I didn't spend all that money for nothing. I will be devoting a good portion of the remainder of the year to writing and hiring players and trying to play out again and maybe record again soon. And so, yes, expect more music from me, which I will shamelessly promote on my channel as much as I can. Yeah.
My garage is a wood shop.
Yeah, I wasn't aware about the musical thing, so I mean, I'm always looking for in like 45 seconds doom metal.
I may make you a guitar one day if I got time. Sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt y'all's flow, but I did.
I forget which turn we're on now.
Is it my turn? I think, yeah. $10 from Chili Wilson. I thought a Jimmy Snow was doing a line off of someone's D.
Names can mean two things.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
Yeah, Jimmy Snow. I like that.
$25 from L. Gleason. Great to see Aron and Professor Dave together. Love your work. Professor Dave's takedowns of flurfers are frustrating to watch, but necessary. I share PD Explains, Professor Dave Explains series with my students. Outstanding. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy, and keep bringing in quality hosts. You hear that, Dave?
Tight.
Quality, yes. $9.99 from Jamnick06. Great hosts, more Prof. Dave, please. Jimmy, go guzzle vegan cheese on a Fergal Burgle Manergal burger.
You were actually right the first time saying burgle. The person who wrote it forgot the L. This is from Matt's show, though.
Got it.
$10 from Abel Medina. Oh boy, here we go. Skibbity skoo. I fucked it up. Skibbity doo. Hey Dave, that talk with Peterson was hilarious.
It was.
I'm almost scared to watch it because my deal with it was like 2 fucking hours.
Mm-hmm.
And toward the end, I'm like, dude, do you have like multiple brain cells or is it just the one?
I mean, it devolved into such buffoonery that I was just mocking him for the majority of it, because it's like, there's no hope of a good faith conversation. There's nothing to like dig into. Like with somebody like Kent, he's at least trying to make what could be perceived of as rational thoughts. I mean, he's lying, but he's like trying to say things. The other guy is just like, beta, and your daddy is a devil, and it's just like, where do you go with this? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, $9.99 from Jamnick06. Yes, that quote was from Dumbo. I haven't watched Dumbo since I was a small child. I don't remember it.
$20 from Yedayanin. Did I screw that up? I hope not. I love seeing Aron and Dave together. My favorite Kent Hovind slapdown duo. Although just talking to that guy must be so hard. When will a strawberry, I guess, be a cow? Take my money and eat cheese or something, Jimmy.
Oh, I eat a lot of cheese. That's for sure. I'm just not guzzling vegan cheese.
Me too. Cheese is great.
One of the greatest joys in
$10.
life.
$10 from Philosopher King Gaming. Sincere thanks to Dave for the video on Parmigiano Reggiano, the king of cheese. It has become an amazing addition to my preferred Italian dishes. That's right. Yes, I do Italian language and culture content as well.
So this one's confusing. The person sent $5 initially and sent another $5. So JC wanted to ask, Dave, is there a divine force behind the formation of the universe? Or wait, is a divine force behind the formation of the universe completely impossible? And Jimmy, please go fuck yourself respectfully.
So yeah, I was talking about this earlier. I mean, contrary to Aron's position, I'm a little bit more agnostic in the sense that I wouldn't feel comfortable making that statement. I firmly do not believe in a deity of any kind, but I don't think I could definitively say it is impossible. I don't know how I could say something like that with certainty. So I would not say it is impossible. I would say there's zero evidence for it of any kind, and it is not needed to explain anything. Yeah, that's.
Let me clarify that position, if I may.
I would go fast because we are running out of time with Dave here, and we've got a few more chats.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you can make it very quick.
So people will say that that anything is possible. We know that there's a lot of things that are not possible. So in order for a scientist to say that something is possible, there has to be a precedent or parallel or verified phenomenon indicating that such possibility exists. And if you don't have that, you have no possibility. I don't think I ever said that it was impossible. I said there is no possibility.
Mm-hmm.
$10 from Kent McLeod Jr. On the developmental thing with children, my paternal grandfather told me that when he was a kid in the 50s, his teachers would slap the backs of his hand to force him to write with his right hand. I would believe that because I was a child of the 60s, and my teachers were telling me how they used to do that, but now they have left-handed scissors. And some of my teachers were upset at that because they hated, woke politics.
Letting people be left-handed, so woke. $20 from I Killed Earl. Dave, I would love it if you did a video series on teeth and oral facial anatomy pathology. As a dental hygienist, it would be fabulous to have quality educational videos to recommend to my patients. Love, Aaron. Love, Dave. Love, go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Sure. I mean, I'm interested in covering literally every academic subject, so perhaps at some point that can happen.
$9.99 from Cape 122. Who do you think would win in a debate? Inmate number 0645-2017 or Jeranism? Love both of your stuff. And of course, there's an inside joke there because I always refer to Kent Hovind by his old prison number. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be hilarious to have Kent Hovind versus Jeranism, where Kent Hovind has to defend the sphericity of the earth because Hovind would have the one debate where he could actually win. But he would need to resort to science to do it, and he doesn't know how to. So he would still lose.
Yeah, and he would still cite the Bible, probably.
Dave, how are you doing on time? Do you want me to send you just the ones that are directed to you and then let you go?
I can spill over a little bit. How much are we talking?
I think we've got 9 left, but then they keep coming in, So It's like... It's one of those things where it's like if we run into when you got to go, just go ahead and
I say about 10, maybe 15 tops.
Cool.
Awesome.
Let's try to filter the ones just for him. And by the way, Dave, do appreciate your time here. Happy to have you on.
Happy to be here. $10 from Byte MEXD. Professor Dave and Aron, I'm a big fan of you both. Question for Professor Dave: would you debate Witsit Gets It on flat Earth? He's pretty crafty. I have already agreed to do that, and he is not crafty. There's no such thing as a crafty flat earther. So I'm waiting. I agreed. Craig from Fight the Flat Earth offered to host it, and he said that Witsit agreed to it, and I agreed to it. And so whenever he wants to do that, I will gladly humiliate him and then post it on my channel and make another few thousand from people watching it to have a good laugh. So crickets on his end.
$20 from Peggy Peck. Great show. This gives me something useful to listen to while I work cleaning toilets. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
$10 from Sheridan Bernasconi. This is my first time seeing Professor Dave. Thank you for the very informative show. By the way, Jimmy and Aaron, go fuck yourselves. Laugh heart.
$50. Thank you very much for that. From Too Young to Feel This Old. I agree that the Flat Earth Dave debate is one of my absolute favorites. I have a book recommendation since y'all did not. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. It's beautiful. Hope to see you on the line more often, Professor Dave.
Cool.
Yeah, you notice how he didn't agree to that. So like Dave's never going to be here again.
No, I'm good. I'm happy to come back. Of course.
I never know in email whether or not I felt like I was just annoying you for a long time, and I never know. I'm the worst at interpreting tone. So I'm glad you're having a good time, is what I'm saying.
Wait, for email? I don't remember. What? No. Yeah,
I just felt annoying because I had to keep. I like not anything you said or did because I sent so many emails to cover a very little amount of ground, and I was like, I should just try and figure out how to put it all in one email.
I remember just like 3 or 4 emails or something just to like set a time. I don't remember.
I think it might be like 14.
No,
that's until you finally said, "Okay, fine, I'll be on the show." God damn.
Do it. Jeez, I'm really important, you guys. I got more debunking.
It's so the entire thread that starts with Aron connecting me and you is 19 emails long.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. I have threads that are the one with James Tour to try to organize this freaking debate is like 60 emails deep already.
60?
Yeah. Because he started.
We had to like with that guy.
So many things. What do you mean? What's wrong with that guy? So much. He's a mess, dude. He's a mess. Anyway, $20 from Zbeev Golden Calf. What is a good way for lay people to differentiate between pseudoscience / misrepresentation and properly represented science? I mean, oh man, I don't like. We'd need like an hour to talk about all that.
Let me do a quick summary. Do they play mood music during the presentation?
Yeah. Action movie soundtracks. You can just you get the rhetorical strategies, like the logical fallacies. They use them all over and over again, the same ones. They try to connect with narratives and emotional centers, and don't properly cite research. But the problem is that some of them show research but don't describe it properly. They just lie about what it says, and they think if they just show a paper, say whatever I want, no one will read it. So I don't know. It's complicated.
$9.99 from the. I'm sorry. $9.99 from the Raven 200. No cap though, Jimmy. I understand you don't take compliments well, but I really do enjoy you. Thank you. You really are a dope dude. Now back to business as usual. Go fuck yourself.
The fuck did I do to you? You come at me with these attacks. Clearly, that's what it has to be. Logically, this nice a compliment must mean that this person hates me. That's not how we run things over here. Jesus Christ.
It always makes me laugh that I have a snake with that exact makeup.
$10 from ACW 2001. Team up of the century, Aron and Dave. You two have both changed my life for the better this past year with your vids. Would either of you ever do debunking alien sightings / hoaxes? I've thought about it. More like the Graham Hancock stuff, because it's gaining a lot of traction, but it's really archaeology heavy, which I don't know a lot about, so I'd have to like find somebody to help develop it. But it's kind of on my radar a little bit.
Yeah, I love talking to archaeologists. I was taking archaeology a little bit, toward my anthropology degree, of course, and it's stunning how much the experts know. I mean, I come out of the class not able to recite, but I'm overwhelmed at what we know. To all of these claims, that we hear from the pseudoscience and the aliens documentaries and everything is just utter tosh. The best way I can put it. $10 from Quagma TV. What happened? It went away.
I got trigger happy.
$10 from Quagma TV. My theory, R.E. Emmanuel. I'm betting he's broadcasting to his church. hence the speaker feedback, the echoey auditorium sound, the frequent tech issues because plugged straight into the broadcaster, etc.
The only
Well, they got
problem
a
with
little
this,
show, didn't they?
I was to say, the only problem though with this theory, I think he's actually usually calling from a coffee shop, but the problem with this theory is the idea that the church would be impressed by his performance. I think even most creationist level churches would be like, "Hey, there, Emmanuel, how about you just not speak for us? That'd be great."
Yeah, not too convincing. $10 from Super Masterman 64. Thinking back to the chat about Dave's music earlier, there's potential for something like the Dave Tour v. James Tour for a title, Battle of the Bands, maybe. Dave. I can't quite imagine it, but it sounds nice to me. Anything where I can fit my music in there I'm into it.
$9.99 from Kakarot. I hope I said that right. Have you seen Clint's Reptiles? He teaches phylogeny a lot like you do, Aron. He's Mormon too. I have watched an awful lot of Clint's Reptiles. I don't think you could have a backdrop like I do and not watch a lot of his stuff. That he's Mormon is a bit of a surprise to me.
Is he Mormon, or is he Mormon like I'm Mormon?
I think he's Mormon as in lives in Utah.
Could be, yeah. Can't come out. Because you learn an awful lot of science getting that level of phylogeny education. Yeah. I don't know. It'd be tough. But don't forget, everybody, with everything I've done, they still haven't excommunicated me. So the reasonable thing is they'd like me to continue to embrace the term Mormon and speak for the church, and I shall do so.
I was wondering if I was going to have to pay to get my name taken off the rolls.
I mean, some people do if they hire a legal person to make sure it happens. And then there's a specific law firm that handles resignations for people. And I think they'll take whatever donation. They'll do it for, it's either free or for cheap, but they ask for people to contribute if they can to cover the costs of other people leaving.
The fact that there is a legal agency involved in that sort of thing. And with the kind of letter that I got, where they're asking me to sign a waiver that I am aware that I'm endangering my immortal, non-existent soul to a non-existent hell if I leave the Mormon Church.
Yeah, that's somebody going off book locally. But hey, we made it to the end, by the way. That's all.
Cool.
Boop. This is where you would do some sort of outro, Aron.
Well, it has been a bucket of chuckles. I do mean in all sincerity that if I'm not booked for anything else on the weekend of the 19th, I think it was, I would be happy to make the drive down to Houston just for the sheer blind fuck all amusement of being in that audience. And if James Tour thinks he can stock that with a bunch of hostile believers that are going to be allied against you, I will be there for immoral support in the stands. Yeah. And
not that it'll help much, but he's got to do something because,
Yeah, I've been in confrontation situations like that where I've had like a whole clusterfuck of creationists around me, and it's just me against all of them, and I don't know why I enjoy that so much, but it's a bucket of chuckles. It's also a descent into madness. I do feel like I've just walked into a sanitarium.
Mm-hmm.
I always come out with that feeling. I'm like, how the fuck do you guys go to church and not feel like, hey, we're all fucking lunatics? I don't get that they don't pick up on that.
Yeah, delusion. It's powerful.
All right. I guess we're going to close the show up with this. Jimmy, thank you as always for having me on. Let me know if I can ever be on one of your shows again. I do enjoy these. Dave, always a pleasure to have you on. And I mean that sincerely. I've had you on a couple of my shows before. It's always fun to talk to you. I do appreciate sincerely what you do for, I want to say, the skeptical community, for the people who think that maybe understanding the way things really are is somehow better than pretending there's something else.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been really invigorated as of late with some of these debunks, and I feel that it's working. I mean, based on the reaction I'm getting from like Discovery Institute and their ilk, it's very clear that it is working and doing them a lot of damage to their reputation. So good, definitely going to lean into it even harder coming up here. Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, you've done really well so far, and we're encouraging you to keep that up. All right, I think we're done.
Yeah,
Jimmy?
I mean, one might do something like say, hey, if you enjoyed this episode, you want to make sure that you see all future episodes of Things on the Line, you should hit that subscribe button. Be back here tomorrow for HOSTility with Forrest Valkai. He will be on with actually a new guest we've had to change. On Wednesday will be Matt Dillahunty and Dave Warnock on The Hang-Up. On Thursday will be Arden Hart and Nominal Naomi on the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And then Matt and I, Jimmy Snow, will be back on Sunday for the Sunday Show. Patreon.com/calltheline. We are expanding our network and everything, and support over there makes it incredible, an incredible difference. And links to Professor Dave's channel and other relevant links are in the description. Anyway, Aron, if you just say all what I just said, we can end the show.
Yeah, don't you just love how he would expect me to be able to do the whole Don Pardo thing that he just did?
Just pull it off. Pull it off. That was off the top of my head, bud. I didn't even have a guide in front of me. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
How do I? And now I'm incompetent. I got to run this goddamn intro. Boom.